Carolina beat Kentucky on the road in large part because they were the aggressors. Now Georgetown comes to the Dean Dome, and it is no time to let up.
This is Tyler Hansbrough, and you're listening to Locked on Tar Heels.
You are Locked on Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Friday, December 5th, 2025. Welcome into the Locked on Tar Heels podcast. It's the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade. You're joining me at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. It's all part of the Locked on Podcast Network, now the number one sports podcast network there is. Thanks for making us your first listener watch to get your Friday going the right way. I want to give a special shout out to all the everydayers and all the members of the Locked on Tar Heels Discord, as well as all our insiders. Great to have you all here. By the way, there's a brand new announcement coming out next Monday about a great opportunity to connect with our show and all Locked on shows, frankly, even deeper. So stay tuned for that. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if that bet wins, you'll get $300 to use in bonus bets all across the app. Download it and get started today. Coming up on the show, yes, Georgetown comes to the Dean Dome. Not as good a team as Kentucky, but boy, the second you let up, you are gone. Carolina needs to know who they are and play to that. I'll get to it in a second. Then we'll go to our Four Corners preview for this game, including talking about Georgetown's strength and an area that they're not as strong and how Carolina can hopefully exploit those. Then we'll get to know the Hoyas a little bit, plus the weekend whip around, all that coming up here as we get going on the show. So let's get right into it. Out of the gate, as I get a little sip of water, bear with me. The Tar Heels just went to Rupp Arena to Kentucky, and per the great article that Adam Lucas wrote after the game, Seth Trimble had stopped practice earlier in the week, had talked to the guys before the game, and basically laid into them. And I love it because you might remember a couple weeks ago, I had said it's really different when mom or dad chastises you, coaches, Coach Davis, Coach Lebo, Coach whomever, than it is when a peer gets onto you, Seth. And when a peer speaks, you listen. And those boys bought in and did it. But now here's the kicker. That has to become your identity game after game after game. And it's hard for a bunch of 18 to 22-year-olds to do that, but that's what they got to do if they want to be great. So that's what we're walking for. You have to come out from the tip of this game with the same level of intensity and determination that you had at Rupp on Tuesday night. And if not, Georgetown is more than happy to go back to the nation's capital with a victory in their pocket at North Carolina. And that's the last thing you want to have happen, is be sitting there like, hey, we beat Kansas, we beat Kentucky, we've only lost one game. And then you lose to Georgetown. Nope, that ain't it. Carolina won at Kentucky because they were the aggressors. They got on the glass. They got on the floor. And that's what needs to happen all over again. Part of that, in my opinion, is knowing who you are. And for me, part of that identity that we have quickly begun to see is, holy smokes, Caleb Wilson is special. And there's a bunch of dudes on this team that can do a lot. But for me, the guy you have to operate through is Henri Veesaar. Carolina has started to operate through him more, and I truly believe that that needs to grow even further because they can use him as something of a hub. Get the ball into Henry. If he's got good position to score, let him make that decision. If he get, if a double comes or if he's not in good position to score, kick it back out, get the defense moving, swing the ball side to side, maybe even repost, some high-low action. Man, we've seen some great action between he and Caleb Wilson this year. I would love to continue to see that. There was a great play detailed, I wish I could remember who it was, on Twitter of, I think, Caleb getting the ball out on the wing, and then the point guard, I can't remember if it was Kyle Evans or Derek Dixon, running through, setting a screen on Veesaar's guy so he could come around middle of the lane and just a little 2, 3, 4 footer in the lane off of the Wilson assist. That kind of action is fantastic. And when I say that, I guess really I should also say you can just as well facilitate and work through Caleb Wilson. And again, these are your two best players right now in terms of productivity and the biggest advantage you have. So, of course, you want to play through them. Let them facilitate, let them make decisions. That's what I want to see. And when Henry, oh man, this infuriates me. I'm now short. I'm like 5'11. When I was in like 5th grade, I actually played inside. I was a big man. And nothing would infuriate me more than when I had position and guys would miss getting me the ball because I knew I could score. And so my whole life, even though now I'm more of a guard, that has infuriated me to no end. I remember the biggest example for me was Tyler Hansbrough. If he had position, you got to get him the ball. And sometimes he wouldn't get it when it looked like there was a good entry angle there, but no. I feel like I saw that a lot in the Kentucky game where Henri Veesaar had position and guys didn't get him the ball, man. You gotta deliver it to Henri Veesaar when he needs it and trust that he's going to make the right play. So part of this continuing to grind is knowing who you are. Another part of it for me is knowing who you aren't. Right now, with no Seth Trimble on the floor, North Carolina simply isn't as dynamic or explosive or athletic. Yes, they have some very dynamic, explosive, athletic guys, chiefly Caleb Wilson. But they don't have someone on the floor right now that does what Seth does, that breaks through any defense because of his speed and athleticism, that can get going in the break and finish with the craziest highlight thing you've seen. And again, Caleb can do some of that, but it's just a little bit different because you've got Seth with his senior savvy and veteran leadership. And so what North Carolina needs to figure out now is, as I'm talking about being scrappy and hard-nosed and tough-nosed, which Carolina has shown, they're going to need to do that. Let that defense stand out because right now, with what we've seen from the offense, it is not going to be that. The offense is still trying to find itself. And until such a time as it does, what you got to do is, once again, be the aggressors. You got to be the ones that are going to hold teams under 70 points. They just did that at Kentucky, held Kentucky to 64 on their home floor. That's what I'm talking about. Another part of this aggressiveness, this don't sleepwalk through this game against Georgetown is because, like, Georgetown's better, but they're still not great, if we're being honest. Carolina should win this game. There's this other weird balance of you've got to be the aggressors, but you got to take care of the basketball. Carolina did much better in that regard against Michigan State, having a season low 8 turnovers, the only time this season they've had single-digit turnovers. And I thought they regressed some in the Kentucky game, and I get that you're on the road. That's part of it. But there were some just silly errant passes that didn't need to be, whether it was a lob way over a teammate's head, whether it was just giveaways, just unforced errors that shouldn't happen. Carolina needs to take care of the basketball, and that is a critical thing that I'm going to be watching for on Sunday. And the last thing I'll say about the scrappiness is we're starting to see a couple of the bench guys get themselves some more time. Derek Dixon played a career high in minutes in the Kentucky game. Jonathan Powell has played 20-plus minutes in now back-to-back games. Michigan State and Kentucky. Are these guys finding their way into their own? Hubert Davis needs to continue to try it out. This to me is a great opportunity for that. Why? It's a high major opponent, a Big East team that's not as good. And so let's keep trying some Zayden High. Let's keep trying some James Brown. And they may succeed or they may flop, but you got to give it a try. And you got to trust that if it doesn't go well, that the rest of your guys have enough to get it back. And because here's the thing that drives me crazy is I hear a lot of people say, Coach Davis needs to play more guys. And I hear a lot of guys say, or a lot of people say, oh, the bench is so terrible, get them back to the bench. Well, they're never going to get better if they don't play. And I feel like I hear the same people say both of those things. You can't have that cake and eat it too. Either you want Coach Davis to play the reserves, build the depth, and have some bumps in the road along the way, because that's going to happen. That's what Coach Williams did, and why sometimes you would see Carolina not win a game in a bye game by as much as you thought they should, because he was committed to developing depth. And in the same token, those same people will often be like, well, why isn't he playing no more? Because you just got all bent out of shape. Like, got to keep developing it, and I want to see more of that. All right, here's where we're going to go next. It's time for the Four Corners preview of this basketball game. Georgetown hangs onto the ball really well, but they're not a great three-point shooting team. That's all going to be part of our Four Corners recap coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about FanDuel, y'all, NFL Sundays move fast. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. And honestly, live betting is best when the game starts to shift. A receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, the momentum flips on a big turnover. FanDuel lets you jump in right in that moment, because what they do is they take live spreads and the money lines, they adjust instantly. Player props update as guys get hot. You can bet the next touchdown score. You can bet the result of this drive, like 3 and out, field goal, whatever it is. All of that keeps you locked in to every snap, every drive, every possibility. How about some Wooden Award odds for the college basketball season? Caleb Wilson right now tied for 6th in the nation in that regard at plus 2,500. If you think that he's going to continue to ascend and ultimately win that, get in on this action. And you can be right in the middle of all of it this season by visiting FanDuel.com to place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Thanks for making Locked On Tar Heels your first listen or watch of the day. And thanks for making Locked On Network the #1 sports podcast network. We appreciate you so much. Time for the Four Corners preview. 4 things I'm specifically watching in this game. A couple, honestly, for each team. Number 1, I need to see the Tar Heels hit more free throws. They're getting there plenty. They are getting to the line as much as you need to, but they're not knocking them down at the clip that they should. As a team, North Carolina is making 71.1% of their free throws. That's 194th in the nation. And if you look back at the Hubert Davis era, this is by multiple percentage points the lowest team free throw percentage he's ever had. First year, 76.4, then 74.2. That's the year they didn't make the NCAA tournament. 75.9, 74.1, and this year 71.1. So Carolina right now is a full 3 percentage points below the previous low of the Hubert Davis era. They've got to get better. And part of that is because the free throw line can be an absolute weapon for this team, because they're getting their opportunities. As we sit here ahead of the Georgetown game, Carolina is averaging 25.5 attempts per game. Again, going back to the first 4 years of the Hubert Davis era, 18.7 attempts, 22.4, 22.8, 20.9. So Carolina, their previous high in the Hubert Davis era is 22.8 free throw attempts per game. They're now at 25.5, just shy of 3 more attempts per game. But they're making them at a lower percentage than ever before. So you see, more attempts with the higher percentage, or even an equal percentage to what they've done the last couple years, is a massive weapon for this team, but they're not yet leaning into it. As you look at what Carolina's done individually in the game logs this season, they've made 80% or more of their free throws only one time in the first 8 games, and that was the first game of the season against Central Arkansas. Only 3 of Carolina's 8 games have they been over 75%. And so that means that 5 of their 8 games, they've been under 70%. I think it's 3 or 4. I think it's half of the games that are 70% and lower. That's okay if you don't want to win many basketball games, but Carolina wants to win a ton of them, and that's exactly what they need to look at doing. So why is this happening? That's a great question. I'm so glad you asked it. Part of it, when you think about Seth Trimble being out right now, Seth Trimble, before he went out injured, was 7 of 7 at the free throw line in those 2 games. Remember last year, career high over 80%, and that's fantastic stuff. Derek Dixon, he's doing his part, 83.3%. It's a small sample size, 10 of 12. Caleb Wilson, I would say, is doing his part. He's leading the team in free throw attempts and making them at a 75% clip. You'd love to get to 80%, but for a big man to shoot 75, I'll take it. Kyan Evans, 75%. That's part of the reason for Carolina's downturn. He is a career 80+% shooter, and he's below that right now. And he's not getting there much. He's only taken 8 attempts. Another thing is that Jarin Stevenson has never been a good free throw shooter in his career. He's at 69.2%. The other thing is the guy that's taken the second most attempts on this team is Henri Veesaar, who is at 66.7%. But perhaps the biggest issue to me thus far is Luka Bogavac, who has taken the third most free throws on the team, is shooting 66.7%. He is another, and we talked about this a lot in the lead up to the season. Luka Bogavac is over 80% for his career. And that was one of the things I talked about at length is, man, something I love for this Carolina team is that when you get in a close game down the stretch that Carolina is winning and they're getting fouled, they're going to hit their free throws because Seth Trimble, Kyan Evans, Luka Bogavac are all over 80% either for their career or last year. But they're not doing that. They're not showing it. And Seth is on the bench. So got to improve on those free throws. And that's the way that Carolina, again, Luka missed the front end of 2 1-and-1s the other day, that both of which would have been critical. Caleb Wilson missed a free throw right at the end of the game there. I mean, it could have salted the game away. That would have made it a 4-point lead. And that's it. So free throws, I'm watching for that to improve. That can start in this Georgetown game. Number 2 in the Four Corners recap. Let's say a couple things about Georgetown. Number 1, the Hoyas are not what I would call a great three-point shooting team. You think Carolina struggles from deep? Wait till you meet the Hoyas. Until they heading into their game on Wednesday against UMBC, they were shooting as a team. You ready for this? 28.4%, which was good for 335th in the nation. Thankfully for Georgetown, they went 11 of 23 in that game and climbed up to a whopping 30.9%, which is now all the way up to 265th in the nation. You thought Carolina was bad. Georgetown just moved up to 30%. They just moved up to 265th in the nation. And so if you're Georgetown, and as you look at where they get their points from, a little over 50% of their points are 2-point shots. But guess what? One of Carolina's biggest strengths is their 2-point defense. Carolina right now is 3rd in the nation at 2-point field goal defense. And so if you're Georgetown and you want to try to get inside the arc, good luck to you, because not only are you facing a team that has the 3rd lowest field goal percent defense on 2s in the nation, you're also facing what is right now marked down as the number 1 tallest average team in the nation, the North Carolina Tar Heels. So good luck, Georgetown, finding a way to score in this game. And that's where Carolina, even if the offense is sputtering, can win at a high clip. So if you're the Tar Heels, pack it in, make them beat you from outside. And if they do that, then you adjust. Number 3 in the Four Corners preview. Georgetown, while 3-point shooting is a weakness, one of their strengths is taking care of the basketball. We said that Carolina needs to do better in that. Georgetown already does. They are 3rd in the nation in turnover percentage at just 12.2%. They're 8th in the nation in turnovers per game at just 9. Carolina has only been in single digits once, much less averaging single digits. So Georgetown is going to take care of the ball. So what that means is, you can try to cause and force some turnovers. Carolina did a little more of that at Kentucky, trying to trap and do some other things. But if you're Carolina, what that says to me is you got to play better defense. You got to do your work early, and then you got to end defensive possessions with the rebound. That's what I'm watching for a Georgetown team that, again, takes good care of the ball. And part of that is because they got some really good guards. And then number 4 in the Four Corners preview, Carolina needs to dominate the glass. Again, I said, to me, the work that they did on the offensive glass to get 20 offensive rebounds and then score 22 points off of it to just the 5 second chance points that Kentucky had won the Tar Heels that basketball game. There is no reason that this team, with all its size and length and athleticism, cannot do that. Maybe you don't get to that level game in and game out, but you got to get something like it. And here's what I'm nervous is going to happen that I really hope doesn't. Carolina was embarrassed on the glass by Michigan State. So they went to work and came out and just went nuts against Kentucky. What I'm worried for now is a letdown game. Or maybe not a letdown game where you still win, but a letdown on the glass where Carolina's like, oh, we proved that we can do well. Now we can just rest on our laurels and we'll be fine. No, you got to go attack the glass with the same ferocity you did against the Wildcats on Tuesday night. That's what I need to see. And that's the fourth thing in the Four Corners recap. By the way, here's a random note for you. Terrence Oglesby, who played at Clemson, who now does, I think he's on the Charlotte Hornets call sometimes, does Field of 68 stuff. I think T.O. is pretty good at what he does. Really respect his insights and all that. Something he mentioned on Twitter that I had been feeling, but I hadn't gone back to research it, which is wild for me because I love to research, is I feel like Carolina has not gotten the jump ball in any game this season. And Terrence had actually tweeted on Thursday afternoon that North Carolina had won one jump ball this season. One. That's crazy. And so my feeling was kind of correct. And ultimately, I mean, it doesn't matter. It'd be nice if it was like football and it's like, hey, after halftime, you defer and you get the ball, but that's not what's working. So I'm curious to see, can Carolina get the jump ball on Sunday? Georgetown has a 7-footer starting, so we'll see what happens there. Speaking of Georgetown and their personnel, we need to get to know them a little better. Who are they? Who's going to start? Who's going to play? All of that. Plus, weekend whip around prep for you all coming up here in just a second. Right after I tell you about Aura Frames. The holidays are officially here, which means gift giving season is on. And if you want something meaningful, personal, and guaranteed to get a reaction, Aura Frames is the gift that delivers every time. It's not just something you wrap, it's a way to share memories. Because Aura isn't your average picture frame. You can preload it with photos before you give it as a gift. So when they plug it in, the memories are already there, and it's so cool. There's no apps to figure out. There's no setup headaches, just instant smiles. And so if you're giving it to your parents or grandparents or, sons or daughters, cousins, whomever it is, man, this is a great opportunity for anybody who loves photos and memories and all of that. And not just photos. Yes, there are endless photo uploads, but also up to 30-second video uploads through the Aura app. And you can add a personalized message right inside the frame so the gift feels thoughtful the moment it's opened. And it also comes gift ready. It's wrapped, no price tag, no wrapping needed. It's a huge win. For a limited time, you can save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver Mat frames, which are named the #1 by Wirecutter, and you can do that by using promo code COLLEGE at checkout. That's auraframes.com, promo code COLLEGE. This deal is exclusive to our listeners, and the frames sell out fast, so order yours now to get it in time for the holidays. Support the show by mentioning Locked On Tar Heels at checkout, and terms and conditions apply. Let's run through this and get to know Georgetown a little bit and get prepped for the game. Again, it's Sunday, December 7th in the Dean Dome, 5 p.m. Eastern tip on ESPN. No FanDuel line as of yet, but Ken Palm favors Carolina by 12 and Torvik by 13.1. He gets into the decimal places with it, and I'm here for that. Here's what's crazy about Carolina Georgetown that you may or may not realize. There are only a handful of teams in the nation that have an all-time winning record against Carolina, and the Hoyas are one of them. It's barely, though, 5-4. So what can Carolina do? Win this game and even the series. We will take that. Georgetown has won 2 in a row. Most recently was the 2007 Elite Eight, a very frustrating game that Carolina lost 96-84 in overtime. Carolina led this thing by 10 with just over 6 to go in the game and let Georgetown back in it with poor shot selection and some early shot clock shots. This is when Hansbrough, Danny Green, they were sophomores. Ty Lawson, Wayne Ellington, Brandon Wright, those guys were freshmen. And I remember vividly where I was that day. And it's just one of those core things. It's like, man, they should have made that Final Four. It's so annoying. But whatever. They went on to win the national championship. We'll take it. Obviously, the most famous matchup between these two programs was the 1982 national championship game on March 29th. Carolina wins 63-62 with Mike Jordan's game-winning shot with 15 seconds to go. A reminder that after that, then, Fred Brown from Georgetown threw it to James Worthy, and he's like, cool, deuces, the game's over. James Worthy, by the way, scored 28 in that game. Pat Ewing was a freshman on that team. You might remember famously like just goaltend after goaltend to start the game to try to send a message to the Tar Heels. It didn't work. Georgetown is coached by Ed Cooley, who came over from Providence. It is his third season. Hoyas are not ranked in the preseason, in the AP poll. They were 6th in the Big East preseason poll. Right now, as I record, they're 114th in the net. That means, unfortunately, that this is a quad 3 game. Games between teams ranked 76 to 160 at home is a quad 3, so Georgetown falls into that, meaning this is a resume killer. The Tar Heels cannot lose this basketball game. I mean, they should not lose this basketball game if they want to do what's good for them. The Hoyas are 87th at KenPom, 88th at Torvik, so very close there. Offense, 78 at KenPom, 71 at Torvik, very close. And then defense, 113 and 124. Thus far in the season, Georgetown is 6-2. They got a couple good wins. They beat Clemson 79-74 at home, and then beat Maryland 70-60 at Maryland. Now, I don't think the Terps are all that good, but I think that the Clemson is a decent team. It's not as good as Clemson's been the last 2, 3, 4 years, but still. And then their other wins, nothing to write home about. All teams hovering like 280 and worse at KenPom. Their losses, neither of them are bad. It's to Dayton, 84-79 in overtime, in Miami, Florida, not Ohio, 78-65. And both of those came in an event on Thanksgiving week. So, again, Georgetown is better than they have been the last couple years, but still not to the level of like 1982 national runner-up Hoyas. The usual starters for Georgetown. In fact, they've been the same starters every game so far for the Hoyas. Malik Mack is the starting point guard. He's in his second year at Georgetown after transferring from Harvard. 16.5 points a game, shoots 38.5% from 3 on 6.5 attempts a game. You'd love to have Seth Trimble to shut him down. How many times have we said that lately? Their shooting guard is KJ Lewis, an Arizona transfer. So he actually is getting 16.6 points a game to lead the team, just 1/10 of a point ahead of Malik Mack. And he also leads the Big East in steals at 2.7 per. At the small forward, Isaiah Abraham, he's a sophomore, 12.8 points a game. And then power forward, this is funny, Caleb Williams, I guess he gave up on football and is now playing basketball for Georgetown. He's a UConn transfer, 6.1 points a game. And then at center is a guy that Carolina was kind of looking at and I wanted is Julius Halafanoa. He's a Kiwi he's from New Zealand. Ended up going to Georgetown instead of Carolina. Only played 6 games last year, but has started every game this year, getting 8.4 points a game. So there is that. Now, one of the things I mentioned when talking about dominating glass, actually, maybe I forgot to mention it, is that KJ Lewis, the shooting guard, is Georgetown's leading rebounder. What? 6.1 boards a game. Carolina has got to go. That sounds like Seth Trimble last year when Carolina didn't have a front court. Carolina needs to go dominate this game on the glass. Off the bench, the depth, Vince Uwachukwu, Deshaun Harris-Smith, Jeremiah Williams, Jaden Fort. That's 4 of the main guys that are coming in. The weird one for me, though, is that Langston Love, who's a transfer from Baylor, I expected him to be in the starting lineup for this team, but he is not. Part of that is that he suffered a hamstring injury, and I think he's been still kind of recovering from that a little bit because he's just been slowly ramping back up. Right now, he's 11th on the depth chart in terms of minutes per game, but he's starting to play a little more, and so ultimately, I think maybe we might see him more in this game, so we'll keep our eyes peeled for Langston Love. And that's a kid, man, my heart goes out to. He's just dealt with injuries kind of his whole collegiate career. You'd love to see him get to play. Just play, but not very well against the Tar Heels. That'd be great. My prediction for this game, again, I said KenPom has Carolina by 12, Torvik by 13. I'm going to go a 15-point margin at home over the Hoyas. I think Carolina puts together more of a complete game here and wins 85-70 is the score I'm going with. What is your prediction for this game? I'd love to hear it. Let's get to the weekend whip around to wrap up our Friday show. And I should say, by the way, we're going to be live Sunday after the game, so get ready for that. Women's basketball, unfortunately, lost at Texas on Thursday night, 64-79. Look, the Longhorns are number 2 in the nation. It was tough in my house because my wife is a big Texas Longhorns fan. House divided. Shady Acres was in shambles. But here's the thing. Texas is number 2 in the nation, and Carolina got off to a really nice start, won the first quarter 21-16, and they were looking good. But then Texas started to pour it on. They won the second quarter 23-10, the third quarter 24-15. And so consequently, heading to the fourth quarter, Carolina found themselves down 17, 63-46. It grew to, anywhere from 19 to 21, 22 in the fourth quarter. Nice push a little bit back to close it to 15. But just after that first quarter, it was clear and obvious Carolina was not going to win the game. Next up for the Lady Tar Heels, they host Boston U on Sunday at noon. That'll be on ACC Network. Volleyball in action in the first round of the NCAA tournament on Thursday against 6th seed in their region, UTEP. And as I said last week, don't sleep on UTEP. They're the team that has a seed in this field, not the Tar Heels. Tar Heels were one of the last four into the field, a little bit overlooked, whatever it is. Guess what? UTEP takes the first set of this thing 26-24. You're like, shucks. But then the Tar Heels reeled off three straight and quite handily, I might add. 25-11, 25-18, 25-21. Great work by the Lady Tar Heels to get that win and to keep moving forward in the NCAA tournament, just making good on the great season they've had. Second round is today, Friday, 8 p.m. on ESPN Plus against 3 seed and the host of this part of the regional, Wisconsin. So much, much tougher step up in competition, but Carolina, they can go get it done. All right, really the only other thing that's in action this weekend is track and field, who is kind of split team. There's an event up in Boston called the Sharon Collier-Danville season opener. That's Saturday. And then some will stay closer to home in Winston-Salem in the JDL Early Bird Invitational. So again, not too much going on right now as we kind of transition from fall to winter sports, but that'll all get up and running here soon. Basically, once we get past Christmas break and all that stuff. All right, you guys, been great to be together on a Friday. Thank you so much for tuning in to Locked on Tar Heels. If you haven't subscribed to the show, go ahead and do it now so you don't miss a second. If you want to hang out and become more a part of this Locked on Tar Heels community, join our Discord. It's free and the link is in the show notes. If you want to go even deeper than that, have one-on-one conversations with me, free access to all of my stats and charts and data and other perks as well, join the Locked on Tar Heels Insiders. That link is also in the notes, and it's a great way to help support our show. All right, you guys, again, we will be live Sunday after the game. But for now, it's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll talk again Sunday, but until then, peace.